Welcome to the Fantasy Beer League podcast, where you get half-decent advice from half-decent guys. I'm your host, Sean Joyce. With me, as always, is Firebender, Justin Giel, and our resident fantasy football expert, Matthew Senni. Justin, how was your Labor Day weekend?
I'm hurting, buddy.
Yeah,
I went nice little bender.
Yeah.
I didn't want to drink today, but I got to do it.
Yeah, duty calls.
Yeah.
And Senni, who's your number one running back for week one?
Number one running back. Well, I know that McCaffrey is the best in the league, so I'm just going to say McCaffrey.
That's pretty good. I thought you would go Frank Gore, but it's nice to see that you're changing your opinions.
No.
In today's episode, we'll be breaking down our week one matchup and highlighting players that were boosting or fading based on their team's schedule. All right, let's dive right in with the Philadelphia Eagles visiting the Washington football team. Justin, how do you feel about the value of highly hyped running back Miles Sanders in this matchup?
Well, as long as he plays, because I know last I saw he was questionable. I don't know if that's just maintenance or whatever, but
yeah, I don't think it's anything serious.
But I like all of the offense against the Washington football team. I have him ranked RB10 this week, but I would still start him and be happy with starting him. I really don't think the football team's defense is going to do their job, and I would be happy starting him.
I agree. I think the football team is terrible against pretty much anything that they can do offensively. They were ranked 31st in rushing yards allowed last season. I think Sanders gets enough work to be a top 10 play this week. I rank him as running back 9. I also think Carson Wentz is an interesting play if you're looking to stream a quarterback this week, or if you waited. He's got a really good matchup. There aren't any receiving options, like wide receiver options, that I'm banking on scoring this week. But I do think that Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert are both top 10 tight ends this week.
Yep.
They lead the team in targets, and I think that the football team's defense is just so atrocious that they're going to have their way with them all the way. I also don't feel very highly about Washington's offense, so I rank the Eagles' defense as a top 4 play and Jake Elliott as a top 8 play, just because they're going to kick the shit out of them, I think. I don't expect it to be a close game. Are there any players on the football team that you'd feel comfortable starting this week?
No.
Okay. I expect Darius Slay to shadow Terry McLaurin, so I'm a bit lower on him. I rank him as a flex play at wide receiver 22. I need to see more improvement from Haskins before I feel comfortable starting any other receiving option on the team. And just a name to keep an eye out for in the first coming weeks is Steven Sims Jr. He's a deep option just to watch out for should the offense pick up. I think he has some upside, but he's not fantasy relevant right now.
Yep.
And then I love the upside of Antonio Gibson, but not this week. I want to wait and see. They released Adrian Peterson over the weekend, which was a bit surprising. So you need to see how this backfield pans out before you feel good about starting any running back on this team. All right, let's pick this game. I'll start, and then we'll go around the horn. So me, Justin, Senni. I'm taking the Eagles.
I am taking the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a question. It's the Eagles.
All right. Let's move on to another game that I think will be pretty in alignment with how we think it's going to pan out. It's the Dolphins at New England, where Cam Newton makes his Patriot debut. Justin, how do you think Cam will produce in this game?
I think he's going to produce well. I actually have him ranked this week as QB7 in my eyes, just because I think he's got a lot to prove going to a new team, coming back from being injured, and there's a lot of people doubting him, his ability to play, his ability to stay healthy and just be productive. So I think he's going to show up against a really weak Dolphins team.
I agree with you. Miami was in the bottom half of the league last year in both pass yards allowed and rushing yards allowed, and I think Cam will do both against this team. I rank him as quarterback 10, so I'm a bit lower than you, but I still think he's a quarterback 1 and a safe starter this week.
Yeah.
Aside from Cam, there isn't a player on either team I feel good about this week personally. There are too many cooks in New England's backfield, and James White is only a flex play for me. We don't know what to expect from New England's receiving core. I guess Edelman I'd start if I drafted him as a flex option, but I wouldn't feel great about anybody. And I'm fading the Dolphins' skill players because of how dominant New England's defense was last season. Devontae Parker and Preston Williams both fall outside of my top 30 this week. Anything you'd like to add on this team?
Well, I do have Edelman ranked. I have him ranked pretty low. I have him at 28.
Okay.
And then with the Patriots defense, I do have them ranked inside the top 10, but I'm going to be a little bit weary on them just because they have, I think it was like 6 or 7 players.
They did have a lot of guys opted out. Yeah, that's true.
So those big name players could be kind of crucial, but Belichick just has that way of making something from nothing. So I think I think it's still a good option if you have him, start him.
I also have the Patriots defense ranked pretty highly. But let's pick the game. I'm taking the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm taking the Patriots.
Yeah, New England.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get an upset on the first 2 games and look like idiots. But for now, let's
hope
move
so.
right along to the Packers and the Vikings. Senni, what's the name of Minnesota's number 1 running back?
Is it not the guy that I said earlier?
Is it what guy?
Is it McCaffrey?
No, he does not play for that team.
Okay.
Thank God I did not want to get iced today.
No.
I'm very hungover.
Yeah.
It's Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I would have
Okay.
never would have thought of that.
Okay.
Could have looked at the draft board right
Yeah.
there.
Oh shit.
No, I'm not a cheater.
I didn't think of that. Please
I'm not
don't
a
cheat.
cheater.
I ranked Dalvin Cook as running back 2 this week. Vikings love to run the ball, and in this game, I expect them to try and grind clock and keep the Packers offense off the field. Cook is always a top 5 running back, but this week I'm especially high on him. I also like his teammate Adam Thielen. Like I said, I expect them to run a ton, but that opens up play action, and Thielen's the clear wide receiver 1 on this team now. I rank him as wide receiver 7. I think he's going to get plenty of those deep targets off of play action, and I think he scores a touchdown in this game. How do you feel about Thielen this week?
I like Thielen. I have him 7 as well.
Okay.
I have Dalvin Cook as RB3.
Okay.
But I do think it's going to be a productive day for the 2 of them.
Yep. And then on the other side, for the Packers, I'm a little bit weary on Aaron Jones this week. I rank him as running back 19. The Vikings finished the top 5 against the run last season, and I believe the defensive line is primed for dominance again with the addition of Yannick Ngakoue. They traded for him recently. This paired with my preseason fears of Jones in a role like a committee role.
Yeah.
It makes me very weary of starting him this week. He's going against a good defense, and I think it's more of a committee split than we saw last year. I think he needs a touchdown or 2 to produce top 10 numbers, so I rank him as a low-end RB2 this week. Devontae Adams, I rank as wide receiver 4. Xavier Rhodes departed Minnesota to join the Colts, so I'm not too concerned about the matchup at cornerback. And Adams seems to always produce every week. I think he's a safe, elite play. Start him if you got him. Are there any other Packers players you'd feel good about starting, Justin?
Not this week. I agree with you in starting Devontae Adams. I have him as wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, I have as RB 14.
Okay.
For the week.
So, yeah, both in that running back 2 range.
Yeah, right.
Still a starter, just I'm tempering expectations.
Yes, and I agree. I think that he should not have gone 3rd.
I agree, but I digress.
Yeah. But yeah, those would be the 2 that I would start. I don't know if there's anybody else from the team that I would reach out, and I don't have anybody from the team. I don't think there's anybody that I would pick up and go ahead and start.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know what the receiving core is going to look like. And then I like the Packers offense. I think that it'll be a close game, but I rank the Vikings defense inside of my top 10 this week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're a top play, and I'm also picking them to win the game. Who you got?
I got the Vikings as well.
I was going to say Minnesota.
We're all in agreement on every game so far. All right, now let's get to the game we've all been waiting for. The Colts versus the Jags.
I can't. That's the only game I'm going to watch.
Well, that's all you need. Who would you be starting if you had them in this matchup?
I would start T.Y. Hilton.
Okay.
Probably T.Y. Hilton and then Marlon Mack would be the 2 that I would go for to start.
Okay. Mack, I'm a little bit more weary on. I'd rather see that backfield and how they're going to utilize it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a committee, and I believe that Jonathan Taylor takes the lead role. Right now, I do think Mack is probably the safest play, but I still rank him outside of my top 30.
I would have him as a flex play. He wouldn't be RB1 or 2 for me.
Mm-hmm. I do agree about T.Y. Hilton, though. I expect him to find some familiarity with Rivers in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to look to him early and often as the Colts try to establish a new identity. I rank T.Y. Hilton at wide receiver 18, and on the other side, I have DJ Chark ranked as wide receiver 17. I expect Chark to carve up the defense in garbage time.
Yeah.
The Jags are the king of meaningless yards and catches, and he's talented enough to catch anything thrown his way.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect him to just eat that secondary when they're playing soft coverages. So you don't care if it's meaningful points for the Jags as long as it's meaningful points for you. And I really like Chark this week. On a similar note, I think Chris Thompson gets a sizable amount of targets in garbage time due to game flow and circumstance. Fournette is gone. They released him, and Raekwon Armstead is on the COVID list.
Mm-hmm.
So back with Jay Gruden, I think Chris Thompson has the clearest path to relevancy in that Jags backfield. And like I said, I think the Colts are going to be winning for most of the game, so he'll get a lot of those cheap yards and catches late in the game. So for me, he's a flex play with some upside. And you said that you like the Colts running backs best, so I don't have to ask you that question. But I believe Jonathan Taylor emerges as the lead back eventually, but this week too soon to tell.
Yeah.
So I don't believe any Colts running back is more than a deep, risky flex play this week.
Yeah, but in a league like this, only 8 teams, I don't think you would need to reach to have him as a flex.
No, yeah, I agree. The Jags are bad, and I'm taking the Colts in a blowout.
I'm going to take the Jags in an upset.
Oh, upset. First upset of the day.
Yeah.
I have Ty, so I'm going with Indy.
That's a good way to pick the game, Senni. Whatever benefits you the most.
Exactly.
All right. Next up, the Lions take on the Bears in what I expect to be a low-scoring, mostly irrelevant fantasy game. David Montgomery is currently questionable, and the Lions' backfield committee currently offers a lot of uncertainty. I like both Allen Robinson, too, and Kenny Golladay as top 10 plays this week, pretty much every week, but I don't see much value anywhere else in this matchup. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I agree. I have Golladay and Allen Robinson in my top 10 as well. But apart from that, like you mentioned, I don't see it being like a shootout type of game. I think it's going to be low scoring, kind of just NFC North battle like it typically is.
I agree. I think the Lions win a closely contested game.
Yeah, I have probably about 2 points or 2 to 3 points.
That close?
I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to like a final field goal or a
All
field
right.
goal on like the final play.
I really couldn't care less, but I like Stafford, so I'm going with Detroit.
All right. Next on, moving right along to the Las Vegas Raiders, not the Oakland Raiders, and the Carolina Panthers. Senni, who do you like on the Raiders this week?
Dude, I don't even watch the Raiders, so I couldn't even give you a name. I don't think I have anyone from the Raiders in my lineup, so.
All right. Well, there are two guys I like. Josh Jacobs, I rank as running back 8, and Darren Waller the baller, I rank as tight end 5.
Oh, I have Waller in my lineup. He's my starting tight end.
Well, I like him, so hopefully that's good for you. Yeah. The Panthers defense is searching for its identity after losing Luke Kuechly, and I anticipate them to struggle in this one. I rank Jacobs as a top 8 running back, Waller as a top 5 option. There will be a receiver on the Raiders who posts fantasy relevant numbers this week, but it's hard to predict which one it'll be. My plums are saying it's going to be Hunter Renfrow, but he's nothing more than a dart throw flex play for me. On the other side, Christian McCaffrey I rank as running back 1, and DJ Moore I rank as wide receiver 9. I think the Panthers will have to throw to keep up in this one, so I'm high on DJ Moore. And, I don't think I have to tell you that CMC is the best back, and if you have him, you're going to start him. But in case you didn't know, now you do. Anything you'd like to add or disagree with on that, Justin?
No, I pretty much agree. I have Josh Jacobs as RB6 for me. And then with Darren Waller, I have him as tight end 4.
Okay.
So I agree, start him as well. I don't think there's anybody else that I would reach for. Like you mentioned with the Raiders tight end or wide receivers.
Yeah.
What's going on upstairs?
I have no idea.
With the Raiders wide receivers, it's hard to tell who to pick. Mm-hmm. So I would just stay away from them this week.
Agreed. I think Las Vegas starts their first season in their new hometown with a road win. What do you think? Who's going to win?
The Raiders.
Okay.
I wanted to disagree. Yeah, I'm going with the Raiders.
All right. And now time for another A-plus matchup. The New York Jets are taking on the Buffalo Bills. How do you see the Jets offense faring in this game, Justin?
Not well.
Okay, I agree.
I think the only one I would probably start might be Bell, but even then, against the Bills' defense and the shape of that team, it's tough.
Yeah, I rank Le'Veon Bell outside my top 20 this week. I have him as running back 23. I think the Bills are the number 1 defense against the Jets. Bell's going to need a ton of volume to produce start-worthy numbers, and after the reports of his usage in training camp, I'm a bit nervous about starting him. We'll get a better look at how Gase intends to use him in this game and in the upcoming weeks, but for me, he's just a flex play this week. Josh Allen, I've not been shy about how much I dislike him and how little confidence I have in him, but he gets to play the Jets this week. Yep. After trading Jamal Adams to Seattle, I don't see a player on their defense who scares me, and I rank Josh Allen as quarterback 7 inside my top 10. I think this is going to be one of his best weeks of the season. Devin Singletary is another player on the Bills who I'm a bit nervous about. I rank him inside my top 20 this week because of the matchup, but I'm anxious to see how Zach Moss factors into this backfield. Singletary should catch plenty of passes. I expect him to be the leading receiver on the team, actually. Week 1, more catches than Stephon Diggs, John Brown, etc. But it would not shock me to see Moss get short yardage work, goal line carries, early down work, which caps Singletary's upside. Anything you want to add?
No, I agree with Josh Allen. I actually have him as QB5 for this week just because it's the Jets.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, getting rid of Adams, it opens up a lot for him.
Yep, definitely a great matchup for the Bills. I'm taking them to win this game.
I want to disagree just so we're not full sweep, but I got to go with the Bills again.
Okay.
So one of my best friends will be with me this weekend for this game. We all know he's a Jets fan, but I'm still going to have to go with the Bills.
Oh, you're having Ian over?
Tough break there for the Jets. Let's press on to the Browns and the Ravens. A lot of big names to cover in this one. Let's start with the Ravens. Obviously, you're starting Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews if you have them. But how do you feel about the running backs in Baltimore, Justin?
I don't like the committee, or I shouldn't say I don't like the committee. I feel like the committee kind of hinders whether or not you should start Mark Ingram and then Dobbins. So I would really only start Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. I think the running backs can get some work, but I don't see it being a whole hell of a lot.
I still have Ingram as a top 20 back. I rank him as running back 17. I think we're a few weeks away from the J.K. Dobbins coming out party if it happens at all this season. I think the Ravens are just too dominant on the ground, and until Mark Andrews gives you a reason to stop starting him, you have to keep playing him. On the Browns, though, how are you anticipating their skill players to do in this matchup?
It's tough because the Ravens have a good defense.
They do.
So I have OBJ and Landry ranked inside my top. OBJ I have at 16. Landry I have at 22.
Okay.
So both within top 25, but it's tough just because of how good that Ravens defense is.
I agree with you. I also rank Beckham at 16. I have Landry at 29. So I rank Beckham as a top 20 play, a wide receiver too. I think that he's going to get back to his old ways and be a more dominant receiver this season.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's starting this week. And historically in his career, he's had slow starts.
Yeah, he typically will pick it up in week 3 or 4 when he kind of turns on the Jets.
If he has a slow start, I'm not going to be pressing to trade him. I do think this is going to be a bounce back year for him. And Landry I view as a flex play.
Yeah.
The Ravens defense is really dominant. I also fade their running backs a little bit. Nick Chubb I have as running back 12. Kareem Hunt I have as a flex play at running back 28.
Yep.
Ravens have one of the best defenses in the league, but I still think the Browns are going to be able to move the ball. And Chubb, you're not going to get a lot of volume from pass catching. So if the Ravens take a lead, you're going to have to hope that the Browns will still commit to pounding the ball with Chubb if you're going to use him. So he's outside of my top 10 this week. Still a usable piece. Yep. I mean, obviously, if you have him, you're going to start him. But I would temper my expectations a bit. I'm taking the Ravens to win this one pretty handedly. I think they're going to come in and be pissed off at the way last season ended. And I think they're just hungry to win, and they want to prove themselves again. How do you think it's going to go?
I agree. I would hope for a good game, but I really don't think this is going to be a close one.
I have Chubb, so I'm going to take Cleveland out of spite at the Ravens, but I sure hope they make every field goal they take because I have Tucker.
Okay.
I'm all about Cleveland.
Yeah, he's willing it, man. He's going to will it to happen. All he cares about are his players. So
exactly.
Every pick is beneficial to him. All right, now the final 1 p.m. matchup, Falcons versus the Seahawks. I think this is going to be the best game of the early slate, and it should have plenty of fantasy-relevant performances.
I agree.
I'm going to run my rankings by you, and you can tell me if you think I'm too high or too low. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Russell Wilson, QB4, Matt Ryan, QB9.
That's where I have them.
Okay.
So, spot on.
Chris Carson, running back 13. Todd Gurley, 2, running back 18.
Right about where I have them.
Okay.
Pretty much spot on.
Julio Jones, wide receiver 3. Tyler Lockett, wide receiver 21. Calvin Ridley, wide receiver 26. Hayden Hurst, tight end 6.
Hayden Hurst, I think, is the only one that I don't have ranked.
Okay.
So that's higher than I have him.
Okay.
But everybody else is kind of right in the same ballpark.
Yeah, plenty of options to go around. You know these teams are good. You drafted them high because you know they're good. So start them. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. I can see it turning into a shootout. I expect Senni's boy, Matty Ice, to come out on top. So I'm taking the Falcons. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Seattle.
All right.
I got a newfound love for Seattle.
I managed to get Matt Ryan with my last pick. I'm going with the Falcons.
All right, bitches. Time to pour up. Thirsty Thursday time. Justin, tell me what you're drinking and tell me about the Texans.
All right. So I am drinking guava, tangerine, and peach Berliner Weiss from 903 Brewers. It's their slushy series. This is tasty. Good beer. Quality beer. Looks like this.
Nice thick.
Yeah. Nice thick beer. Talking about the Texans?
Yeah.
I like the Texans. I see this game kind of being like a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
I see it being a high-scoring game. I have Deshaun Watson ranked pretty high. I have him as... I have him as QB4.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes, QB2. And then Tyreek Hill, I feel like he's going to have a really great game.
They don't play for the Texans, motherfucker. I said Texans, not
Chiefs. The Texans. Oh. Yeah. So pretty much just Deshaun Watson, I think is the only one that I would have as like a lock to start.
Okay.
I do have Will Fuller ranked. I think I have him as wide receiver 30 just because I feel like this might be one of those games where he has 200 yards and 2 touchdowns like he does every single year. But then David Johnson, I have him as, I believe, just as a flex option.
Interesting. I rank David Johnson as running back 14. I think all the pieces on the Texans are usable this week. I have Will Fuller 5 ranked as wide receiver 24 and Brandon Cooks ranked as wide receiver 27. So I think they're both flex plays.
Yeah.
One of them will produce wide receiver 2 worthy numbers, I think, but you don't know which one because you're not sure which guy is going to be the guy. David Johnson, I think, is going to get a ton of work. And I think that they need to make him work because after trading away DeAndre Hopkins, it sort of forces their hands. They have to use him and prove that they're not idiots. Who are you taking in the game?
I'm going to take the Texans.
All right, the upset pick.
Yeah.
Now it's my turn. I expect this game to have a ton of offense, and I'm boosting my ranks on every player of relevance on both teams. But right now, I want to talk to you about Raspberry Minette by Crane. It's a grisette, which I've never had before, but it tastes like a sour or goza. It's a little bit salty and sour, but it's really smooth to drink, really light.
Continue.
Oh.
You don't have to.
I thought you were telling me to wrap it up.
No, I'll tell you.
I thought it was too.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to talk about the Chiefs' offense seamlessly. So for the Chiefs' offense, I rank Patrick Mahomes as quarterback 1, Travis Kelce, tight end 1. They're both top 2 at their positions pretty much every week, but I expect them to hook up for a couple touchdowns in this one. Mahomes, I think, could have a career day. I think this is going to be a high-scoring shootout. CEH debuts for the Chiefs. I expect him to immediately make his presence felt. I rank him as running back 4. Tyreek Hill starts this season with no offseason charges against him, so we can all pretend he's not a piece of shit. I rank him as wide receiver 2. And I'm all in on the Chiefs. I think, that's a hot take, obviously. But I say
Only
they
one in the
win.
world.
Yeah, I say they win 117-35. Senni, tell us what you're drinking and tell us who you think wins this game.
So we are officially out of summer shandy time. Now we're in the fall. We got the Harvest Patch Shandy from Line & Kugel. Sean said he could smell the pumpkin on my breath. So I guess I'm officially your average white girl, and it is officially fall.
You guys were kissing off camera, right? That's why he was saying that.
Dude, well, don't blow my cover, man.
Show me the sunglasses. You're a different guy now.
I'm a different guy.
Life is Sababa.
I will be starting Deshaun Jackson over Matt Ryan, so I'm going to have to go with the Texans.
Deshaun Watson.
Sorry, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, okay, good. Yep, I would do that too. I agree with you, Senni. I think he's a top 5 play. Justin agrees, so we're all in the consensus there. I didn't think I was going to be the only one to take the Chiefs, but let's go. I think that works out for me. All right, let's jump back in to Sunday. Look back into that day of the week and preview the 4 p.m. game, starting with the Chargers versus the Bengals. Austin Eckler, I'm really high on this week in this matchup. I expect him to get plenty of work against one of the worst defenses in the league. Generally speaking, I'm not high on the Chargers offense, but this matchup works out very much in their favor. Keenan Allen, I think quarterback play is going to affect him eventually, but it's not going to start week 1. I think he's still one of the elite options at the position. I think he'll burn through this Cincinnati secondary. I rank him as wide receiver 14 this week. And another player I generally fade, but I'm high on this week is Hunter Henry. I think he offers tight end 1 numbers. I rank him as tight end 8. I think he's going to be a start-worthy player this week, not every week. How do you see the Bengals doing in this matchup, Justin?
I feel like I think they're going to go down, so it's going to be a lot through the air. So if AJ Green is healthy, I still wouldn't start him. But Tyler Boyd, I feel like the two of them are going to get some targets. And then I'm drawing a blank. The new guy, the quarterback,
Joe Burrow.
I want to see what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
I was never really big on LSU, but seeing him play and seeing them come through, I kind of want to see him succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see that, but them being a division rival also, I don't see it being a very good game for their offense.
The Chargers had the 6th best passing defense last season, and despite how good he was in his last season at LSU, Joe Burrow is still a rookie making his first start in the NFL with limited offseason reps in the COVID year.
Right.
So I rank Tyler Boyd as wide receiver 28 and AJ Green's outside. I think they're both flex plays, but they're not safe flex plays yet. I'd be cautious starting either of them this week. I do like Joe Mixon, though. I rank him inside of my top 10. I finished strong last season. I believe he'll be used in this offense regardless of the score after they recently signed him to a lucrative contract extension. I rank him as a low-end running back 1 who should get a decent amount of volume against a team that's good against the pass. I'm taking the Chargers to win this game, however. I think it's not going to be very close, but I would be interested to see if Joe Burrow can get a win in his first start. I think it might be a better game than most people write it off to be.
Yeah, I'd like to see a good game out of it, but I agree with you. I think the Chargers have this one.
All right, Senni.
I just don't think the Bengals are that good anymore, so I'm going with the Chargers.
Okay. Next up, we have the NFC Championship 49ers hosting the up-and-coming Arizona Cardinals. I expect the Cardinals to be a better team this season, but I still think there's reason to be cautious against last season's number 2 defense. Kyler Murray, I rank outside my top 10 this week. I expect them to struggle a bit against that highly explosive 49ers pass rush. DeAndre Hopkins, I rank as wide receiver 12 this week for the same reason. Plus, he's going to be seeing a lot of Richard Sherman in this game. And I have my doubts about Murray and Hopkins having that chemistry right away. That usually takes a few weeks to develop. So I think it'll be a bit before that connection really comes together. I'm also low on Kenyon Drake this season in general. We talked about this a bit in the preseason.
Right.
I'd rather see a larger sample size of success before considering him an elite option at the position. But this week, I'm especially low on his outlook because of the matchup. His breakout game did come against the 49ers, so perhaps that'll be a trend in his career. Sometimes players just have really good games against certain
They
teams.
play good teams well, yeah.
Yeah. But for me, I'd be comfortable starting him as a mid-tier running back too. I rank him as running back 16. How do you feel about their offensive options, Justin?
Okay for this week. I have Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins both ranked 12th at their position. To your point, the chemistry I think it's going to take a little while to develop. Plus, with the limited reps and everything in the off season due to COVID, I think that impacts it as well. I think they'll be fine down the road, but right now I wouldn't consider them elite options, at least in week 1.
All right, well, we're in agreement there. As for the 49ers, the only player I think you can start with confidence is George Kittle. The backfield is more of a committee than people realize, so for me, Raheem Mostert is nothing more than a risky flex play, and their wide receivers are ridiculously banged up.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel may play week 1, but even if he does, I'm not sure that I rank him much higher than wide receiver 30. So Kittle, if you have him, you took him, you know what you're going to get. You're never going to bench him, but I don't see anybody else on
I'm
this
starting
team.
Goddard over him.
Oh, okay. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I hope you do.
I hope not.
Well, anyway, let's pick the game. I think the 49ers win this pretty easily.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to be 28-10. That's my pick.
Yeah, well, despite the King Larry Fitzgerald and that I have Kenyon Drake as my RB2, I'm going to go with the 49ers.
All right. That's how you went against your team for the first time
I
in this
did.
episode. All right. Our final 4 p.m. game. Well, I want to talk about these 4 p.m. games for a second. Do you guys take naps at the beginning of the 4 o'clock games? Because I usually get all hyped up at the witching hour at the end of the 1 o'clock games and then take like a 10, 15-minute nap when those West Coast games start coming.
I usually go and make something to eat.
Yeah.
So I'll step away from the TV.
I normally
and,
get food at that point.
yeah, stop listening to Scott's voice for a
Yeah.
little bit. You got to watch Red Zone.
Yeah. Well, I usually, I'll get all hyped up at the end of those games. Then I fall asleep. I wake up. Jared Goff has 2 interceptions and all is right with the world.
Just dazed and confused on the sideline.
Yeah. But our final 4 p.m. game comes to us from the Big Easy with the debut of Tampa Bay. Justin, tell me what you expect from the Bucs offense in their first week with Brady as their starter.
I think the tight ends. Their receivers I think are going to have a big game. I don't think Fournette's going to be a factor. Gronk will see some looks just because of that chemistry with Brady, but I do think it's going to be a successful week for them fantasy wise. But that being said, I do think the Saints are going to have a better game.
I think Brady will have a decent game, but not a superstar performance. The Saints have a good pass rush, which limits Brady's upside, and I expect Marshawn Lattimore to shadow Mike Evans for most of the game. Last season when they played, Mike Evans had 0 catches on 2 targets against Lattimore. So I rank him outside of my top 10 this week. I have him as wide receiver 11. Obviously, I don't think that the coverage is going to be as dominant as it was last season, but I am viewing Evans more as an elite wide receiver 2 than a mid-tier wide receiver 1.
Right.
I have Godwin inside my top 10 at wide receiver 6. Throughout the season, I think there are going to be Godwin games and Evans games, and by that I mean there's going to be one guy who has a great day and one guy who has a bit of a pedestrian game by their standards. Gronk, like you were saying, I think he gets some looks, and I think Brady is going to be a little extra motivated to get Gronk a touchdown in this one.
I was going to say, do you think he's going to force it into him?
I think so too.
Yeah. I think,
Phrasing.
Yeah,
but I
phrasing.
agree. I think that, it's Gronk's first game back. It's their first game together in years. I think Brady is going to want to get him a touchdown at all costs.
Yeah.
So I do think Gronk scores in this one. Leonard Fournette, I have unranked. I know that it's a big move and everybody's excited about it, but I still think Ronald Jones, too, is the guy you want on this team. The best argument for Fournette's role is short yardage situations and touchdown goal line work. But last season, he only scored 3 touchdowns on monster volume, and that volume is gone.
Yeah.
So if you're starting one running back, I'd say start Rojo as a flex play with a little bit of upside. but I don't feel great about any running back in Tampa Bay until I see it on the field.
Yeah.
Now we can talk about the Saints. When the Saints play at home, you start your Saints. Drew Brees I have as a top 6 quarterback, Alvin Kamara top 5 running back, and Mike Thomas is Mike Thomas, wide receiver 1 every week. Anything you disagree with, or is everything good?
No.
All
I
right.
don't disagree
I
with
don't think
anything.
there's anything else to talk about there. I think Brady's debut in Tampa will be at the headline, but I think the Saints win the game.
I think so too. I think it's gonna be a good game, but I do think the Saints are gonna win.
I fortunately have Mike Thomas and Mike Evans, so I would love a high-scoring game.
Mm.
I am gonna go for the Bucks.
All right.
Bucks.
Yeah.
All right. Vince, play that sweet, delicious drop for us.
We've been waiting all day for Sunday night.
All right. Senni, what have you been waiting all day for?
I've been waiting all day to meet someone famous.
Okay.
So we've in the past we've had a conversation about, who's the most famous person you met. And it's funny, I've been to a lot of concerts, especially since meeting my wife. And with as many famous people as I've seen on stage, I really, haven't been like with you guys where you guys stay after the shows and you get autographs, whatever. So all I could think about was when I was young, I went to the local camp, right? Liberty Lake. A lot of people know about it. And when I was there, they used to do this thing where they would have like young artists come and they would play on the stage, and it was like this whole concert. It was like the day everyone looked forward to. So I knew that in my childhood bedroom, there was a poster on my ceiling, because all my posters are on my ceiling, from this one concert from when I was like 10. So I went home and I found this wonderful poster that is old and stained and covered in signatures of people that I've never heard of. So this is great because when I was a kid at these concerts, I'm like looking at the girls up there that are like, I don't know, a couple years older than me. And I think they're like the hottest thing in the world. I'm like crushing hard on these girls. I don't know what good music is at the time. So like anybody that could sing on this stage, it was like the greatest thing in the world to me. So, you're there all day. You listen to these no-name artists. I mean, you look, there's a ton. Okay.
There's a lot
Can you name some of them for us? Give us a taste of some of these artists.
Young and Divine, The Kin, The Rideaways, Natasha Soul, Matt Stam, and then this big sticker is from the girl I was crushing on hard named Kelsey Merritt. I've never heard this name again, but the funny part is afterwards when the concert's over, you get to go and wait in line to get autographs from these random people. So obviously I waited in some lines because you see a ton of signatures here. Dude, you could buy albums. I think I bought at least one that who knows where it is. But you sat there in like 2007. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Who knows what these people have done with their lives since.
Yeah.
But you could even see like their tour, like they went to all the different camps in the area.
The tour is what I'm laughing the hardest at because I
it's
see,
great.
Camp Manitou, Tall Pines, the YMCA.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a full-on concert tour.
It's hilarious.
That's
And we were
awesome.
last. We were like the last one on here.
Oh, wow.
It was hilarious, dude,
I love
because
it.
for me, like, this was such a big deal. And, like, considering how many concerts I've been to, that this is the only one that I've ever actually gotten autographs from is hilarious because this poster is worth literally nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
But it's
So-
worth $1 million in your heart, Sonny.
Yes, it is.
You've kept
Oh,
it
yeah.
this long, so
Yes, I have.
I'm glad you got that Kelsey Merritt sticker. I hope she sees this and you can leave your wife.
Oh,
and
it would be awesome.
it'll be a Hollywood ending. All right, so let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams. Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, I both rank as top 3 players at their respective positions. I think Dak is going to have to spread the ball around in this one due to LA's solid secondary, so I'm downgrading the receivers a bit. I have Amari Cooper as wide receiver 15 and Michael Gallup outside of my top 30. If you drafted them, you probably have to start them, but I only view Cooper as a mid-tier wide receiver 2, and Gallup is a deep flex play with upside. The Rams' secondary is just tough.
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey, after trading for him, the Rams have one of the best passing defenses in the league, and they also have arguably the best defensive player in the league in Aaron Donald, who's a force on every play.
Yeah, he's a fridge.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, he sure is. On the other side, for the Rams, I don't feel good about any of their running backs. I'd rather take a wait-and-see approach with Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown. If you need to start one, I think Akers has the highest appeal, but he's a high-risk, high-reward flex play for me. Dallas has a pretty good defense, sneakily good, so I think Kupp and Woods are going to be limited to their upside, but I rank them both inside my top 20. I have Kupp as wide receiver 13 and Woods as wide receiver 20. How do you feel about Tyler Higbee in this game, Justin?
I actually don't think I don't have him ranked.
I don't either.
So I guess I don't feel pretty good about him.
Yeah, I'm cautious again because of the small sample size, similar to Kenyon Drake. I'd rather see it for a longer stretch of time. I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm picking Dallas to come away with the win.
Yeah, I'm picking Dallas too. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode that for whatever reason I like the Cowboys, so I'm sticking with them.
I've always been like Justin. I've always kind of liked the Cowboys. I do start Dak in another league. I'm going with Dallas.
All right. Interesting. I thought we were going to be split on that one. All right, boys. It's time to start sweating it out. It's Monday Night Football, and every fantasy matchup that's close seems to come down to Monday night. And we have 2 games to agonize over this week. So let's start with mine and Vince's New York Giants versus Senni and Justin's Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. This really pains me to say, but I'm downgrading all the Giants players this week and upgrading all the Steelers players. I have Ben Roethlisberger and Juju Smith-Schuster inside my top 10 at their respective positions. Ben at 7, Juju at 10. I was lower at them prior to draft day, but I think this is an excellent matchup for them. The Giants have one of the most unproven defenses in the league. They have minimal pass rush and poor cornerback play. They've added pieces to remedy that, but it's not going to show up week 1. I don't think those efforts are going to come to fruition right away. James Conner is another player that I wouldn't normally rank inside my top 20. I've spoken before about how I'm not high on him.
Right.
But due to the matchup, I see him scoring a touchdown and getting enough volume to be a middle-of-the-pack running back too. As for the Giants, the only one I think you can start is Saquon Barkley, but I would temper my expectations from him. He's a beast. You have to start him. You're not going to not start Saquon Barkley. But I think that this is going to be the biggest struggle that he has all season. And I really, really hope I'm wrong on that because he was my first pick in the punishment league. But all that being said, is there anything you want to gloat about your team or add to what I've already said?
Not going to gloat. That's not who I am, but I actually have Evan Ingram ranked.
Okay.
I have him as tight end 6 just because the Steelers the way that they play their defense, they don't watch a lot of the tight ends. And Gronk has shown that. I mean, they're 2 different playing levels, but Gronk in the past has torn up the Steelers. So I feel like Evan Ingram could have a big game.
Okay.
I would feel comfortable starting him, but apart from that, really not much else that I have to add.
Yeah, I think if you drafted Evan Ingram, you have to start him because it's such a limited position. I would just, like I said, temper your expectations with those players. I think the Steelers are going to win this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think this is a week to believe in Pittsburgh. I took their defense 4 rounds before another defense was picked. You got to go with Pittsburgh this week.
All right. Last but not least, our final week 1 matchup comes between the Tennessee Titans and the Denver Broncos. How do you feel about Melvin Gordon's first game with his new team?
I'm excited to see what he can do. There's a lot of people that weren't super high on him, but I think he's going to do all right. The Titans do have a pretty decent defense.
They do.
So that would be a little worrisome. But I think with his talent and what he's been able to do, I don't think you shouldn't start him.
The Titans
shouldn't not start him.
Yeah, I think he's a flex play this week.
Yeah.
The Titans are great at running the ball and playing defense, so I don't think this is the game that Gordon gets it clicking for Denver. I'm also lower on Courtland Sutton this week. I have him as wide receiver 23.
Yeah.
I view them both as solid flex options, but they're not the starters that you drafted them as. Noah Fant is a guy that you know I love, but I'm pretty low on him this week. I think he'll be a star by the season's end, but I think this offense is going to struggle against Tennessee. As for the Titans, Derrick Henry I rank as running back 11, and A.J. Brown I rank as wide receiver 19. So Henry I'm fading a bit. I'm a little lower than I'd normally be. Brown, I think that's about where I'd rank him on a weekly basis. I anticipate him being that sort of mid-tier to low-end wide receiver 2 most weeks.
I have him at 20.
Okay. I really believe this is going to be a gritty and defensive game, so Henry may benefit from some touchdown runs, but I don't expect many big plays on either team in this game. All right, let's pick this game and wrap up this podcast. I'm taking the Broncos in an old-school defensive game.
I'm going to go the Titans.
Tighten up.
Tighten up. I'm going to go Titans for the same reason. I think they're going to win the defensive battles.
I always think pretty highly of Denver, so I'm going to go with the Broncos.
All right. Well, Justin's the only one tightening up. That'll do it for this week's episode. We'll be with you every Wednesday on YouTube with audio-only podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Pandora. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FantasyBeerLG. Those are the words Fantasy Beer and the letters LG. Next week, we'll have our first big loser and our first punishment of the season. So please do yourself a favor and subscribe to us wherever it is you listen to us, and make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm Sean Joyce, he's Justin Giel, and here's Matt Senni with his advice of the week.
Don't meet your heroes young, because life can only go downhill from there. And follow Kelsey Merritt on MySpace.
Thank you. Good luck in week 1.